Welcome to the Podawan Podcast. I'm your host, Steve, alongside co-host Ollie. And today we're going to talk with you about Palpatine, Kylo-Ren, nothing related to the coronavirus. And, well, actually one thing related to the coronavirus. But besides that, we're going to talk about all Star Wars, take your mind off things. So all this coming in hot. Welcome to another episode of the Podawan Podcast. Ollie, how's your week been going? Besides, the obvious.
It's been all right. Yeah. I mean, just trying to, stay positive and, hopefully it's like what all the people who don't care about it say, that it'll just be over soon. But we'll see. Just, staying positive. Obviously, nice to get away and talk about Star Wars and do shit you enjoy,
Yeah, it's been one hell of a week. I can't
just happened quick. So
wicked quick. Yeah, it's just been insane out there. So, hopefully everyone is safe and everyone's doing well. So that's listening. So, unfortunately, because of this, it seems like there's not a ton of news this week. But there was a couple pieces that we're going to discuss. So first off, because of the coronavirus, Disney Disney and Lucasfilms, they are releasing the Rise of Skywalker digitally for sale as of now, I guess, or I believe it was today, along with Frozen 2. Frozen 2 hit Disney Plus though, and Rise of Skywalker there was no comment on.
Oh, it's not coming to Disney Plus yet?
No, it's not on Disney Plus yet. So just digital release. So if you want to go out there and buy it, go for it. It's on like iTunes, Amazon, you name it. Obviously, this is a response.
Not on Disney Plus. Got to make that money, right?
Yeah,
first.
Gotta make that money. This fucking this kind of ties into what we were just talking about. So it's I don't understand. I actually saw one of my friends at the grocery store. We were standing 6 feet away and we were talking, and we were actually talking about Star Wars though, in all seriousness. And I did mention to him that, Rise of Skywalker came out today digitally, and I thought it was out on Disney Plus, but then I had to correct myself. It actually wasn't. So
gotcha.
But so hopefully everyone that anyone that wants to watch that and hop on to iTunes or Amazon or whatever platform you're gonna buy it, and if let us know what you think. I believe there's some deleted scenes in there, right?
Yeah, and I think there was like a behind the scenes thing or making of the Rise of Skywalker that was pretty neat, supposedly. So yeah, I'm gonna wait for it to come out on Disney Plus, but I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, me too. I'm gonna wait.
I saw it a bunch of times in the theater, so.
I saw it too many times in the theater, but but yeah, it'll so check it out. If you have nothing else to do, go buy it, download it, whatever, and let us know what you think. Moving on. So a little bit of a controversial reveal. I guess in Star Wars Rise of Kylo-Ren #4, it reveals how Ben Solo truly turned to the dark side. So basically, there was a couple scenes in the comic. Ollie, you've seen the
I haven't read the latest one. I'm up to, what did you say this was? Episode 4. So I've read the first 3, yeah.
So so there's a little...
I'm right where he joins he's trying to join the Knights of Ren.
So you know what? I should probably say spoilers at this point. It's a little bit too late, but but if you don't want to know how it happens, go get the comic. But he turns to the dark side, and there's he's fighting actually, I believe, the Knights of who is it? The Ren, I guess technically.
Mm-hmm.
He's fighting
Ren.
Ren.
Calls himself Ren, yeah.
And he's fighting Ren because I don't know if you want me to reveal why, or if you want me.
I mean, that's fine. I'm not too worried about it.
Oh,
I'll
okay.
read it. So, yeah.
So Ren killed his friend, the Jedi, one of the Jedi, one of the Jedi students. I believe his name is Ty.
The ones that were following him, one of the three.
Yeah, one of the three that was following him. He was
Yep.
trying to implore Ben to come back to the light side, and it looked like it was actually working. And then Ren force killed him, breaking his neck, which is kind of gruesome. And then, while Ben Solo is freaking out on Ren, Palpatine through Snoke is talking to Ben and persuading him to the dark side, to which he finally kills Ren and then fully turns to the dark side. I'm not going to read the dialogue. There's a ton of dialogue with it, but
yeah, yep.
So overall, this is a pretty big reveal in terms of the franchise. Ben Solo being such a big character, Kylo Ren being such a big character in the trilogy. Obviously, is the bad guy or one of the main bad guys. So Ollie, what do you think of it initially with this reveal?
I mean, for me, the whole purpose of the Rise of Kylo Ren comic book. So, I knew it was coming. It was filling in the blanks. I mean, this is what kind of Disney's been doing. Is the different questions from the movies have been in books or comics before. It would have been, I think, like we've talked about before. I would have liked a little bit more of the books and the comics to have effect before you see the movie, if that makes any sense. And less like afterwards, and not even getting into like whether it was or wasn't written. I mean, I think they had a general idea for the comics and stuff. So that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying like I don't think this coming out before Rise of Skywalker hurts it. I think if anything, you know what I mean. I think I think it enhances it because people like us would have read it, right? And I think we would have been more into it before Rise of Skywalker came out. Correct me if I'm wrong with you, but like for me, I would have been much more interested in this comic before Rise of Skywalker. And it would have added a little depth to Ben and Kylo, especially for the Rise of Skywalker when he finally, spoiler alert, makes his, turn back to the light. I think this gets into, kind of, I mean, it's the specifics, you know what I mean? In the movies, they do tell you, and you do see him like get kind of like blindsided by Luke, and you figure like he turned dark, but he thought Luke betrayed him. So, I mean, all of that more or less is the same. It just gets into the details of he wasn't completely sold at that point, and his, the other Padawans, if they were considered Padawans at that point, the other trainees, came after him to try to help him out, and obviously it breaks down the Knights of Ren a little more. But this is all my point of I think the biggest problem with Disney to this point is like this stuff is really cool before Rise of Skywalker because you get to learn more about the Knights of Ren. You get to learn more about why Ben turned. So you're like, wow, actually, like he did try, you know what I mean? Like he wasn't completely like turned when Luke, when the thing happened with Luke, all of this stuff that we found out in Last Jedi. So it wasn't a spoiler, you know what I mean? Like we already knew this, the general consensus of it, you know what I mean? Like we didn't know the specific. But my entire point with the whole thing is I'm still interested. I still will read this comic series because I like you do agree that this is a big part. I just think this would have been cooler, and I think it shows the lack of understanding by Disney on how to just in my personal opinion. And I love Star Wars. Like I'm into it all. I just think these are the missteps that they've made. This comic should have come out before Rise of Skywalker. It would have enhanced Rise of Skywalker for the people who read it, and it wouldn't have changed anything if you weren't into the comics and just wanted to go see the movie. You could go see the movie. You know what I mean? It did. And then backwards related, like someone like me, like if I was sitting next to someone who wasn't a fan, they're like, "Oh, Ben turned back to the light." I was like, "Yeah, you should see how he actually turned." You know what I'm saying? Like all of this stuff. I don't know. I think it just for me it is what it is. I still enjoy it. I would have been pumped to read it before Rise of Skywalker. I would have been all in, and I think those are the missteps that they make. But
I think the big problem with if it was before it though is the Palpatine reveal, because in the comic you see it's not Snoke talking to him, it's Palpatine.
No, I know. Yeah. I think they could have. I think at that rate though, they could have like changed the comic a little.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And hid Palpatine in the comic, and I still think it would have worked better. You know what I mean? Then, because then you would have known once you saw the movie. If they had made it like vague, it would have been obvious that was Palpatine in the comic. You know what I mean?
Right.
But that's my point. It should work that way. It should work once you see the movies, the big blockbusters. Some of the stuff in the books and canon starts to go, oh, that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it works the opposite. They just put the movie out and then they put a bunch of comics out to explain it all. And it's like, it's cool, but like, why didn't I get that before?
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
I know. So yeah. So how do you feel, Steve?
I mean, we already talked about it. I mean, I probably should have just saved the rant for the podcast. I'll try to emulate it as much as possible, but this sort of reveal I really don't like. In terms of how much this impacts the franchise, in terms of, you know, Ben Solo and Kylo Ren is such a big character to the sequel trilogy, and in the trilogy, there's only that one scene where, you know, Luke basically, it looks like he's thinking about, you know, taking Ben out because he knows he fell to the dark side, and then decides not to, and then Ben, you know, reacts, and, you know, it's history from there. This comic book series takes place obviously after that, and like what you said, it shows how it leads up to him truly falling to the dark side. I would have liked to see this more in a movie, because this is so much like this whole part of the comic is way more interesting to me. I mean, in the movie, like you were mentioning earlier, like where could you fit in the movie? Probably couldn't fit it in the movie. You'd have to change things around. The only thing I could think of would be maybe like a flashback between, like maybe like Ben and, or I should say Kylo Ren and Rey are like talking, and then, you know, maybe it's like a flashback back to it, and then but the other issue is the whole storyline. So the only thing I just don't, stuff like this to me should be in the movies, like this big fucking reveal. I don't think comics should have to clear up all the details. I just don't like how they're going about some of that stuff. I've never agreed with it. I like if the books and the comics kind of fill the gaps in terms of some stuff, but a big reveal like this, like in terms of like how he falls to the dark side completely, I think that should be on the movie screen, personally. But, you know, we know why Disney would not do that, or, you know, the people behind it are not true, you know, not true Star Wars people, like you were kind of saying. Like it's, I don't know.
Yeah.
I disagree with it. I don't like how this happened, but like I think it's cool. Like I'm like, cool that it shows how he actually fell to the dark side, like how everything played out and everything. But it's just not. I would rather see this on the movie screen. It does, or a big canon reveal like this should be on a movie screen. It shouldn't be through a comic book, and that's my opinion. But
gotcha. Yeah, I feel like they just, in the movies, they hit on, I mean, Luke made that move and Snoke was in his head, and that's what turned him. I mean, in the end, and these are the finer details, but I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, my big thing is I'd like the people who, I'd like the people who read all the canon and everything to watch a movie, and I don't know it for sure, but like from what I've talked to you about, like Marvel does a better job, and Marvel has a lot to work off of, but like when you if I'm going to criticize Disney for anything, because I'm glad like Star Wars is moving on, and I don't think if Disney didn't buy it, I don't think there'd be much Star Wars. So like I'm happy that it's moving on. And I've liked everything, like in general. I just think there's the one thing for me, being a person who reads all the canon and gets, you know, into all the games and just everything. I just think they have really dropped the ball making the canon fit with the movies like they said they were going to, right?
Yeah.
Like they erased all the expanded universe and called it Legends so that they could make a cohesive storyline. And the books and the comics kind of have, but like they just didn't do it with the movies. And that was the big thing. That was supposed to be that and I think the reason that I think the reason that I'm disappointed, other than just like the story, like I'd like to know, you know what I mean? I'd like to have more knowledge of what's going on, you know, because I've read all the comics and stuff like that. But I think the biggest thing is the biggest miss for me is like that's I think what they miscalculated is that's how you get more people into the canon. You have it there and you have all these things and they are linked in the movie so that when someone does ask, or someone is sitting next to me in the movie theater and I go, oh, that's cool, and they ask why, they may have, if they weren't sitting next to me or never noticed that thing, they may just watch the movie and that's it. Star Wars is like Marvel for me. You know what I mean? Like I watch the movies and enjoy them and they move on and they don't purchase anything else Star Wars. But if they're sitting next to that person or if that one thing catches and they go, what's that? And then all of a sudden I tell them, oh, it's from this book, Lost Stars or Last Shot or whatever. Then they go buy that book and then all of a sudden they're buying more books because they're into the, like, that's what they don't get.
Yeah, they
haven't
don't do
got
it that way.
You know what I mean? And like now Mandalorian, I think we're getting there. You know what I mean? And this High Republic, I think, is a great start. But why it's a great start is the people who are the true Star Wars people, the writers, the story group, Dave Filoni, right? Like the people who are into the story and the canon of it are now directing the stuff and bringing it out. And now when it's outlined, hopefully the next movies, now they have to adhere to what the writers have put down, right? Instead of the other way around, where as much as I am a fan of JJ, you know what I mean? And like, so, but like, he's a Star Wars fan. Like they all love Star Wars, but they're Star Wars fans, like just Star Wars in general. Like JJ wasn't reading EU books. You know what I mean? Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I am, but like, I don't think he's reading the Thrawn series from Legends, right? Or Old Republic stuff. So my point is, there is, and it's not totally his fault. It probably would have been better if it was all just directed, if they had the through line. Anybody, like even if Rian Johnson just had the through line and got to do all three, it would have been, I think it would have been better if one idea prevailed. You know what I mean? But my point is, like, I don't think they, especially in a universe like this where you're saying everything connects, I find it weird. And I know some people in like directing and movie business will be like, oh, nobody gives a shit about that. But like, if you were going to direct one of these movies, I feel like you should have to read the canon that's out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't get to just write this story that you want to write oblivious. Well, they did, but like oblivious to everything else. You know what I mean? Like they should have had to have these things built by the story group, you know, because all the stuff I hear is that the story group really didn't have much to do with the movies. You know, they may call in and go, hey,
Whereas in Marvel,
can I make this thing blue? And it's like, no, that's a green alien. You know what I mean? Like shit like that, but like not like the good stuff. And that prevented the whole setup from like people reading Bloodline and stuff like that. None of those characters got to be in the movie. The thing I always talk about, and if you listen to our podcast, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but this whole effing Thrawn and Ezra and Ahsoka thing, like, tell me if any of that had any effect on the sequel trilogy at all. And isn't that one of the greatest canon storylines going right now?
Yep. And
it's opinion, but like, isn't it awesome? Isn't everything about Thrawn and Ezra and Ahsoka? If you're a huge canon fan, aren't you super interested what's going on with that? And and it's not even a side mention. They couldn't even throw Ahsoka in the background. Like they couldn't do anything. But Ezra's voice and Ahsoka's voice were in the mishmash of voices at the end of Rise of Skywalker, which felt kind of like us complaining for so long, and they were like, "Oh shit, how do we make them happy? Ahsoka? Yeah, who plays that? Okay, can you just have her say Rise Ray, and I'll throw it in the movie? Like that's what it felt like.
Yeah, it's just,
and that's the only bummer to me is that
it's a slap in the face.
They pitched this canon package, and then came out with a bunch of shit. But then the movies were on their own, which I understand that the movies were originally on their own. But like now that you have this whole thing, at least, and that's even fine if you want the movies to lead the way, but at least let canon build into the movie, right? They feel like two different things.
Right. It's not even the same.
So hopefully we're done with it because Disney had to come back out and they wanted to do the Skywalker end of the trilogy. But now that we can get into High Republic and maybe someday go beyond, with Rey, because I think even if you started now, I know they're not going to, but even if you started now with Rey and the Skywalker trilogy is over,
People would
no,
be
no, no.
pissed.
I'm saying what I'm saying is I think they could do a good job with a Rey based thing going forward because now they're past the Skywalker thing. You know what I mean? I think the Skywalker thing was the big trip up. They tried to tie up that story, and I just think they got too clustered. You know what I mean? Like if they just go away from that, like I'm saying, like I know they won't right now, but I'm saying like I think if they took Rey's story now and move forward, I think they could do some really interesting things. Like we've talked about, they kind of could do what the EU did with Luke with Rey now. Like Rey's the kind of the last Jedi, so she could go out and rebuild the Jedi, and they could do like a much cooler thing. I just think I think the whole tie to Skywalker really screwed them.
Maybe
in the end. Well, we'll find out. The High Republic will be the case study, right?
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
The first phase of High Republic comes out, because they're going to come out with movies and TV shows eventually. So like once that comes out, we'll see how well the tie-ins are. But I think there will be good tie-ins. I think they just had too much going on with the Skywalker saga, trying to tie stuff into the Skywalker saga, that I think it tripped them up in terms of
and they should just left
overall stuff.
They should just left it alone.
It could have.
So,
again, I'm saying this is weird for me to go into deeply. I do enjoy it. I just think, I think it could have been done a little bit.
Well, I mean, the big point, like you're saying, like the canon, like they sold it as like we're gonna make it all official. All the canon's gonna be exactly like.
And it feels like they just ignored it in the movies.
Yeah, exactly. Like you shouldn't have to go. You shouldn't have to go to the books or the comic books or anything to figure out what the fuck is going on in the movies. That's not how it works. It should be the other way around, like Marvel, where that's kind of what happened with me. Was like I liked Captain America, for instance. I didn't read a lot of his comic books like growing up. It was the first Captain America movie, and like I read a couple comics. And I was like, oh, this is cool. Then I started reading more of them, and I was like, oh, I see what they're doing here.
Yeah.
They're pulling back. Yeah, they're pulling some of the elements from this comic, and then like Civil War, for instance, that was the big one for me because you get to see Civil War, and then I know this isn't Marvel, this is on Fox because it's it's Logan, but like Old Man Logan, that comic influenced the movie Logan. Obviously, they couldn't follow the story, but you. Like when someone's like, hey, this movie's based off of this story in this comic, but it's not exact, but it's just based off it. Well, then I was like, oh, cool. I'm going to buy it. Oh, cool. This is really awesome. All right, I'm going to buy another one. Oh, I'm going to buy another one. And now it's like, oh, cool. I'm learning all this stuff about what they wrote about and everything. Star Wars should be like that. It should not be the other way around. Granted, I get that there's a lot more history with Marvel and stuff, but like, that's how you get people to get into the canon.
To your point, they could have what a lot of people thought they were going to do, and now that I've seen it, I think it would have been neat. More because I just want as much content as possible. But there was a lot of EU stuff that they could have pulled some things from. You know what I mean? More than they did. They didn't have to go exactly down that path, but to completely abandon it, and have it nothing like that,
No, but like
you don't crush it. It's not even the crush. I like the movies. It's just like they just didn't have. I don't know. They just didn't have the through line. It feels segmented, right? Like I like the characters. That I think that's the tough thing. I like the characters and I like so many individual scenes. I just don't know the full through line. Just doesn't feel consistent.
And you could argue like some people hate like on the prequels and stuff, but like the prequels itself still felt
but it was already
cohesive.
written in his head. Yeah,
no, I know, but it felt
written
cohesive
by him, and they're different complaints.
Yeah,
totally different complaints.
But
people will get into Star Wars and love the new trilogy. I'm fine with that. Like I do love the new trilogy. It's just it wasn't as consistent because it just simply wasn't written ahead of time. It was written in pieces, and it feels like it once you. I'm interested. I will say I'm interested to watch them all in a row once it comes out on Disney Plus. Because I haven't watched them back to back to back, and see if it feels more connected than I think, or maybe it feels less connected. I don't know, but it is tough for me because I do like a lot of the individual storylines. I think they had a lot of cool stuff. I just don't know at the end if it all connected.
I felt, in my opinion, I felt that Force Awakens felt the closest to being cohesive with the rest of the story. I think the
Yeah.
last two movies just didn't do it for me. Like it didn't feel the same. Like, oh, this is cohesive. It just didn't.
Yeah.
Especially
Last Jedi is a weird one for me too because I like the movie, but it just nothing. It's weird. It feels like nothing happens, which is a weird thing to say.
Force Awakens, you get all the you get all the nostalgia and stuff like that, but like at the same time, like a lot of the settings and elements feel like you feel that
like Force. Yeah, I feel like Force Awakens, right, set the stage for something more cohesive and better in the end than what came out. Even though I enjoy the whole thing, I think like when the Force Awakens ends, it felt like to me that it was going in a different direction, which isn't wrong. Like I'm not the director, but
right.
Yeah.
Woof. All right. So, all right.
There's a new Clone Wars episode, Steve.
Yeah, there was, and you're going to talk about it. So, what do you think?
It was good. I think we missed. I don't know if we read it. We probably just guessed. It definitely was part.
No, I read it.
This was the. What's that?
Are you talking about like the arcs?
What's that? Sorry, you're breaking up a little
bit. Are you talking about the arcs?
Of course, you're going to break up.
Oh yeah.
Every time I ask you the question. What did you read?
The arcs. Like, are you talking about?
Oh, so it is a 4 arc?
No, it was 3. That's what I read. I researched
well, then they were wrong because this clearly was a 4 thing arc because this was 100% Bad Batch.
Yeah.
But anyways, it doesn't really matter. We did the arc review. This would just add on to it. So it is very much just the finishing of. We thought the arc was ending with them rescuing Echo.
Yeah.
This episode is like really like right after that, and it's just how they're going because the whole point of the whole reason they found Echo and then went to get him was they were getting beat back on an axis, I think is what it's called.
Yeah, it was an axis
because the guy was in the spider guy, I forget his name off the top of my head. That general was beating them like and just almost knew every move, and so that's how they went to the thing to figure out how he's, what algorithm he was using or whatever. And it ended up being Echo and blah, blah, blah. And they rescue Echo. And we thought that was the end of it. So this one's just like the finale of, okay, now we rescued Echo. How are we going to beat back the separatist forces on an axis? Because that was the whole point, right? They needed to get an axis under control. So Echo pulls together kind of a plan on how he could do it, basically by tricking the general of the separatist forces, to basically thinking it was like he was getting the right codes, but Echo gave him the wrong codes to do the wrong thing, basically.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of like, is Echo on our side or not? You know what I mean? With the Bad Batch, Rex believes in him, but and Anakin believes in him too. And they give him a shot, but everybody's a little wary if he's like truly on their side, obviously after all that. So he turns out to completely be on their side, and he obviously spoiler, sorry. He feeds the guy the wrong codes and gets it pretty much gets them the win. The guy does have one thing up his sleeve. There's like a bomb there, so they're able to overcome that. That's another cool. You were talking about like you would like this part, the Anakin moment. He has another dark moment where he like threatens. This is so annoying. What's the guy's name? What's the general's name? The spider general. It's driving me nuts because I'm gonna say the general 75 times.
Shit, I actually forgot his name.
If I hadn't thought of it, I literally would have been Admiral Trench. If I hadn't known I forgot it, I would have rolled off the tongue. But so Admiral Trench, the spider guy. So he basically holds him up and to get like the last code so Windu can disarm the bomb.
Yeah.
And the general's like, you're a Jedi, you can't hurt me, I'm not giving you the code. And he's like, I don't have those weaknesses, and he like cuts off all his arms on one side. So so he goes pretty dark. And then after he gives him the code, he stabs him. So he kills him too. So it was like which is what we should see, right? We should see Anakin starting to fade from like he's seeing, and now he went through the feeling stage of like, well, the Jedi, they say they're all good, but they're doing all this stuff, and then they fall short of pulling the trigger when they need to. You know what I mean? That's and he's felt that for a while, and now he's pulling the trigger. He's like, all right, we're generals, and they say they're all good, but they're making stupid decisions too. So if I can save lives, and I have to torture this guy, then I'm torturing him. You know what I mean? So it's true to Anakin's. This is what Clone Wars is awesome for Anakin's. It's almost like vital. If you're super into Anakin's turn, you need to watch Clone Wars because it does more than the movies do. It's awesome.
Yep.
It really does. So yeah. So then I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I think, so it ends and Bad Batch kind of offers Echo a place on their team because he's different. Obviously, they're like, if you don't feel, because he earns their respect, you know what I mean? So they're like, if you don't feel like you belong here, let us know. And Rex kind of sees it and he goes over to talk to Echo and just says like, hey man, we've been buddies for a long time. Like if that's where you feel like you fit in, you have my blessing to go. So he kind of like joins Bad Batch.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll have to. Yeah. Unfortunately, I haven't watched it because of all the shit show going on in the outside world.
Yeah. Yeah. You'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good little episode. But yeah, it was odd because I was thinking Bad Batch was jumps in. And I'm like, oh, this is still Bad Batch. So.
So in all the episodes, how would you rank them?
Oh, how would I rank the 1 through 4? That's a good question. I thought 1 was pretty cool just because you got introduced to Bad Batch and all their different, parts and and then the whole like, is that Echo? Like I thought that was cool. So I'd probably go like 1. The rescue's cool. What was the rescue? They find Echo in 2 and then they get him out in 3.
Yes. Yep.
I'd probably go like 1, 3, 4, 2.
Okay.
Because I thought the escape was cool. I thought they were all good.
Yeah.
But I thought the meeting of Bad Batch was cool. That added a little bit extra. I thought the escape from Skako, is that what it was? Skako Minor?
Skako Minor.
I thought I thought that was cool. You also, you get a little bit more of the alien, the Poltex, the alien species there. Which is pretty neat, and they kind of band together. And then I thought 4 was really neat because it had the Anakin moment, and it also had kind of the touching moment with Echo going with Bad Batch, which I thought fit really well. And 2 was good. It was just your standard get in and find him, but they only got to find him in that one, so it felt a little shorter. Yeah. As an arc, I thought it was cool. But yeah, I'd probably go 1, 3, 4, 2.
Cool.
Yep.
All right. Well, yeah. If you haven't, hopefully you've watched it, but if you haven't, go check out the Clone Wars on Disney Plus. All 4 episodes are up along with the remaining seasons. But like Ollie was saying, this is a huge TV show, especially for Anakin, and it shows more of his relationship with Kenobi and everything. So
yeah,
definitely highly recommend watching it. So other than that, now we're moving into our Cantina Talk segment. We have this week, we have we have a question, and actually it's actually kind of related to what we were talking about earlier with Ben Solo. Will they bring Ben back after what was shown as his death? And there's been like a big movement online via like Instagram and Twitter. Everyone's been saying bring him back because he was such a great character in the movie. So Ollie, I'll throw it out to you first, but what do you think? Do you think Disney is going to capitalize on this, or do you think that what's done is done, and they're gonna just move forward?
So it's a weird one, right? I've mixed feelings on this. Yes, I think I don't put it by Disney, if that's the initial question. So I wouldn't be shocked if they did bring him back. I think for what they went for in Rise of Skywalker, him dying was the way that the story should have gone. I think it made the most sense. He sacrificed himself for Rey. It ends the Skywalker. It just puts a neat bow on stuff. As neat a bow as you could at that point. But I think it makes sense for the story. Now, I am a sucker for like the best like team kind of thing. And if they go in the future, I can't say that it wouldn't be awesome to see some version of like an extragalactic threat, like a Yuzong Vong. And I say that lightly. I know a lot of people are huge haters of the Yuzong Vong. I say that as the template, right? Not like exactly what happened in those books.
Yeah.
But an extragalactic threat that doesn't really get affected by the Force kind of thing. Maybe a little bit what they were pitching with the Grisks in Thrawn. This is kind of a nerdy total idea, but I'm saying having Rey and Ben with like the new Jedi, right?
Yeah.
Fight that war would be awesome.
It would be pretty cool.
So I don't really like Ben coming back story-wise. Like, I don't know that I love however they would have to do that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need that. But the story would be cool. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah.
it makes me weird on how they'd get there, but I think it could be really cool. So, especially with Ben almost having like a new age Kylo-Ren, new age Kylo-Ren, dumbass. A new age, oh, Steve, what am I'm losing my memory. Revan, sorry, there we go. A new age Revan thing where he was like a Jedi, well, kind of almost a Jedi, goes super dark, is like the leader of the bad side, and then gets redeemed, right? And so, but super powerful. So that's like Revan in a nutshell is kind of Kylo in a nutshell without dying. Of course, the end of Revan, he actually gets captured again and like basically rots in a cell for 1,000 years. But anyways, yeah. So is that a convoluted enough answer like I usually do?
Yeah. I mean, I actually did not think you were going to go in that direction. I'm still, I kind of, researched a little bit on like how would he come back? Oh, what's up?
I don't know where I stopped and you cut in or when I don't know. Discord's been a mess tonight. So go ahead.
Yeah,
you said you're doing research on
so back to life. Yeah, so when I got that question, I was like, all right, well,
oh, they already have like a pitch on how?
Well, I mean, I did see like an article that kind of throws out like how they could bring him back.
Yeah.
Some of them I just didn't. I mean, just reading them, I was like, yeah, I don't know how I feel about it. One thing I did think of initially, and then looking at this article, it kind of explains it a little bit more. Is somehow, I believe in the visual dictionary, like Exegol, just like because it's such a how do I explain this? It's so strong in the Force. Does that make sense? So like that place is so strong that I guess somehow that because of that he somehow gets revived there in some form. Like
so using it as a one-off. So it's a freakish situation that can't be repeated, but because the planet's so Force strong, something.
Yeah, that was one thing I thought of, and then reading on, and actually in a different article, I kind of saw that they mentioned he's in the world between worlds. Ugh, I don't know if I
don't know. The problem again, like I agree with you that it's
it's a time frame. It's not
the forwarding of the story, like the story that could happen, could be really cool. So is that story more worth? Like, is that story worth rolling your eyes over how they bring him back? I guess is the question.
Yeah.
It's like that. No, if that's good enough, then it's fine, right? However, if they bring him back, you just go. I mean, look, it hasn't been 100% consistent anyways, so maybe you just plug your ears and go, okay, yeah, he's back.
No,
the problem with the world between world,
yeah,
I agree with like the Exegol thing. I'm not saying this is what I want. I'm just saying to find a way to do it that's like a one-off would be important, because every other way, world between world, a spirit getting a clone body, something like that, like every other way feels like, then why aren't all the Jedi back? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it doesn't like make sense.
Exegol thing, if it was like a freak situation, again, this would feel very retcon no matter how they, right?
Yeah, there's nothing. There's no scenario.
I mean, for me, it doesn't need to happen. Especially since they said they're not touching after Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, there's no.
any time period. So like who knows? Like so I don't know that it's even worth people
There's
getting all hot and bothered
no
about.
there's no scenario that makes sense where it could be clean cut. Oh, he
Right.
came back because of X. Like there's
Yeah.
nothing like even just
And if he
looking.
comes back, I don't want like a how some people like bring him back and then he's not like himself.
Yeah, that
Like because that's annoying in this scenario because the whole point of wanting him back is wanting the Ben that went to Kylo
that's
and
like
came back to save her.
yeah.
You want that Ben. Like you don't want some weird like half memoried. You know how they do that in some things and sometimes it
Yeah.
works. Like that wouldn't work here.
Yeah, and I mean, are you talking Star Wars or just in general? Like
What's that?
are you talking Star Wars or in general?
No, I don't think they've done it in Star. I just mean in general, like it's like to bring someone back, but they're like a shell of themselves, kind of.
Yeah, that
I feel like
actually Marvel example would be Daredevil because they bring back
okay.
they revive Elektra and she like is all sorts of fucked up. Like she's just
Yeah.
like she turns evil pretty much for a
Gotcha.
bit. So it's just like it yeah, that sort of shit like I don't
Yeah, like I don't need that.
it's too
I don't. I guess I don't need it. They're not. I don't. But that was my feeling on it. I think it could be a cool. I mean, Rey and Ben with a new Jedi Order, pretty sweet. But
I would personally I mean me personally I liked Ben more I liked his character more than Rey overall. I think I mean it would have been cool to see what if he did survive how it would have happened.
Out. What did you say? Sorry.
I just said that I liked Ben more as a character than Rey overall in the trilogy. I didn't. I liked Rey.
Ben was probably the best character. Yeah.
Yeah. So
so I agree. Like, so did you? So go ahead because you cut out. Did you say you would have rather had Ben live there?
No, not necessarily, but like it would have been cool, like to see what would have happened if he did live,
Yeah.
and also like the Rey.
Story wise, it was never going to happen.
Yeah,
it was completely obvious that because Ben can't Ben can't come back to the rebellion after he's killed him. You know what I mean? So like
he's killed so many people. It's not even.
It's too perfect for him to die there that it had to be that way. But Ben was really cool.
Yeah.
But it's always that argument, right? Isn't that what makes Ben's character cool?
Yeah.
That he did die there and sacrifice. Like, do you make him lame if he lives there and then has to come back and say sorry and everybody's like, yeah, all right, it's okay, man. Like. Like, how do you pull that off?
Yeah,
it's almost better. It's like that's just the way it has to be.
What do you think Finn would do first thing if he saw him?
Yeah,
He'd probably deck him.
You know what I mean?
Like
that would be very.
Poe would probably.
The movie was over at that
like,
point.
Yeah,
they're just gonna be best friends at that. He had to go, unfortunately. Yeah. But I think that's part of what makes his character so good.
Yeah,
I think it's just that we would have liked to see Ben Solo, the Jedi, fight a little more. I think at the end of the day, right? Like that's you wanted it like. Yeah. Some kind of crazy, because he just torched the Knights of Ren.
Yeah.
Which I guess isn't really that.
Yeah, but
that's surprising,
but it's still cool. It's just one of those.
Yeah.
It's a good question. I mean, it is a thing that everyone. No, I shouldn't say everyone, but a lot of people have been asking about, and just
yeah,
overall.
Maybe. So you're saying World Between Worlds, like. I don't know how you would do it, not make it insanely cheesy, but maybe there would be a thing where there was a battle in the world between worlds. So then all the Jedi could come back. And it was like, you know what I mean? That almost sounds like a bad video game.
I don't know if I want that. But
no, I'm not saying I want it. I'm just saying that would kind of make sense, right?
Yeah, like imagine
go back or the World Between World thing, you can go back. So I guess they could. That would probably be the way to do it somehow. I don't know how you'd do it. But you go the World Between Worlds and somehow pull him out right before Palpatine dies or something where he kills both of them. I don't know. It's like something like that. Rey's able to get in. That would be the way you could do it. And then make something where like the World Between Worlds shuts forever. You know what I mean?
Kind of like Ahsoka.
Like it still would be kind of brutal, but like that would be probably the most acceptable.
Kind of like
what is in canon.
Kind of like the Ahsoka when Ezra saves Ahsoka.
I don't know how you do it because of the battle and the way it goes down, but. Like, I don't know if you could pull Ben from that, because then wouldn't Rey die?
He's flying... Well... Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe, like, she pulls him right when she pulls him out of there right when he brings her back to life, and then she's able to bring him back to life because she's learned some technique. Again, it's not pretty, but maybe there's a way to do it. That would be, I think, the only way to do it.
Yeah, unless they figure out some other unknown
thing.
She
goes back to Exegol, and like pulls him from the world of worlds right at that point, but she has enough power then to resurrect him without killing herself or something. I don't know.
I don't know.
It's
mean,
really not worth digging into. But
no.
yeah,
Intriguing, just not there. Not.
No, I
don't
like
think...
Ben the character, so I would be a sucker for seeing that storyline. But I don't think it can. It'd be pretty brutal to try to dance around that.
Yeah.
The High Republic, baby.
Yep. We're gonna see how that plays out. So, all right. So,
last quick little thing. Unless you had anything else.
No, I didn't have anything else. What's up?
So to keep on your radar, did you see that leak about Project Maverick?
Yeah, we talked about it last.
Oh, we did it last week.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right. Well, nothing new has come out yet, so I was gonna say like keep your eye on that because I think it'll be interesting to see what that is.
Yeah, no, I mean, I haven't, like I said, this week, this week has been kind of bare in terms of what's going on. I mean, with the coronavirus and everything, I'm sure in the next couple of weeks, once things start to die down, hopefully things start to die down, you might hear a little bit more of what's going on. So, but, at this point, it's going to be an interesting, we're entering a interesting era with this coronavirus. So, all right. But anything else, Ollie? You got anything else besides Project Maverick you're gonna throw at me? No? Cool. Ollie, you there? Uh-oh.
Is that all we need?
Did I lost you for a while.
Hello?
Hey.
I can hear you now.
Yeah.
Okay. So you want to just wrap it up?
Yeah. I mean, I actually I was just sitting there for like a minute. I was like, hey, you got anything else? Dead silent. Oh,
yeah,
God.
No, I was talking. Sorry.
Oh, no, it's all good. No, I got nothing else. So thank you, everyone, for listening to another episode of the Podawan Podcast. As always, check us out on YouTube. All of our podcasts go on YouTube. And also check us out on all streaming services. Share with your friends, your family, if they're into Star Wars. And also every week, we're always looking for questions or topics to discuss. So throw them at us. Like this week, Jess, thank you for the question about Ben Solo. I mean, that has been a trending thing. So other than that, catch you later, Podawans.
Later.